All right, what's your name?
Patrick.
Where are you from, Patrick?
Originally Coos Bay, but I was raised in Baker City.
How was it growing up in Coos Bay?
It was rough, definitely rough. Uh, yeah, I mean, from what I remember, uh, it was different. Um,
For anyone that's been to Coos or hasn't been to Coos Bay, how would you compare that like city wise? Like what's a good city that most people would know you can compare that to size wise?
Size wise, I would say, um, from what I remember, Coos Bay probably like what Grand Island City.
Okay,
Um,
so it's a smaller.
It's smaller, yeah. I'd say it's smaller. I think most coastal towns on the Oregon coast are pretty small.
So would you say, because I would imagine there's probably a lack of things for youngsters to do. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty for them to do, but not things they're going to be able to search out and
Right.
want to do on their own. Do you think, like other rural towns, they have a problem with providing things, meaningful things for youth to do to keep them out of trouble?
I think definitely, yeah. Um, Coos Bay had more of a. We had like the I can't remember what it's called exactly, like Boys and Girls Home or
The Boys and
uh,
Girls Club.
yeah, Boys and Girls Club. Thank you. We had one of those, and I think that is what kept a lot of our youth out of trouble. I have one thing I've noticed with living in Baker is there's not much, and it's got myself in a fair amount of trouble. Um, there's just not much to do here. We got the bowling alley, we got the park, and that's about it. Um, I think Coos Bay had more. I'd say more opportunities, but at the same time, it really didn't. It was kind of all in the area you kind of grew up in, I guess. Um, yeah, I think the Boys and Girls Club was the best thing that we had, though.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what are the age range that you grew up there?
From I was born in Coos Bay, and then I left when I think I was 7. Oh yeah, I was 7.
And where'd you guys move to?
Baker, right here, Baker. Just uh, well, outside of Baker, about 12, 13 miles out of Baker. Grew up in whatever we want to call the boon toonies around here.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Was it a pretty big change for you in regards to like how the kids were compared to there and
Oh,
here?
absolutely. Yeah. Down there, we didn't. I always wanted to be around livestock and cattle and horses and stuff like that, and we didn't really have the opportunity down there. So when I came here, it was a big life change. My father was shoot, we owned 20 some horses and had goats and sheep and llamas and all sorts of shit. Uh, so it was definitely a big life change. Um, yeah, it was actually the first time I ever heard a horse neigh. Scared the shit out of me. never
Right. Yeah.
never heard a horse fucking neigh or do the whinny deal. I never fucking heard it. So the first time it happened, it scared the crap out of me. I mean, me and my little brother were out, next to the horses the first time I ever seen them, and it did that, and man, it scared the crap out of me. I've never
Right.
never heard that
Yeah.
before.
Could be intimidating.
Yeah, we've heard. We've been on the Oregon coast our whole lives. We've seen everything else down there basically, but man, livestock was definitely new to us, and that was a big life change to me. Was being around livestock and having to take care of livestock.
Was that something that excited you, like
Oh,
more
absolutely,
so than made you nervous?
absolutely. No, it definitely excited me. From the first time I laid eyes on a horse or a cow or anything, I was like, that's what I want to take care of the rest of my life.
So is that something you're still involved in?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I've ranched and been around livestock basically my whole life now. Yeah,
So since you were involved in ranching livestock kind of lifestyle, I would assume that you probably did like bull riding and bronc riding. Is that
yeah,
something you got into?
yeah. I started riding. I rode steers my first time when I was. Oh, I got started a little later than other guys. It was probably 6th, 7th grade. I first rode my first steers, and I rode steers until my high school year. And then in high school, oh shoot, I was probably my freshman year, so probably 15 or whatever. I ended up breaking or cracking 2 vertebrae in my back, and I quit riding bulls. And once I healed up, one of my buddies came up to me and said, "Hey, let's try riding some bucking horses." And so I was like, "All right." So the guy I was working for, shoot, we rode. We did practice pen once a week basically. And you can get on as many head as you want. And so that's what I did. And so I got on my first couple saddle bronc courses, and I fell in love. I mean, that was definitely something I fell in love with. I absolutely loved it. It gave me that rush that I was looking for. It just like I said, at that time I was 13, so I've been around horses for um, from the time I was 7. So I was pretty used to horses at that time. My dad, trained his own colts, and I helped my dad train colts, and so I was constantly riding horses that bucked, and so I was never scared of them. To be honest with you, the bull riding, I was scared shitless. It scared the crap out of me.
Why was the bull riding more frightening to you compared to like broncs or?
So I'd been around cattle since then, but I think it was wasn't around cattle as much as some other folk were. Um, I didn't have the opportunity to get on bulls as much as some other kids in different counties. There's a lot of other a lot of other good places to ride bulls and different clinics and stuff that they have around. Baker County just didn't offer. And so I got to I got to train with some of the best bronc riders around Baker, and Benny Ruda and Brandon Clark, and uh, they were probably my biggest inspirations. And my buddy Dally, he rode real good, and so I just like I said, my dad, he don't consider himself a horseman or a trainer, but that guy he trains good horses, and he always has. And so like I said, I started riding colts from my dad, and it was just kind of something that came natural to me. I guess it was just something I always loved.
Right. So what can you describe what the feeling was for you the first time you got on any animal?
First time I got on
Like
any
in
animal,
the sense of riding like bronc, bull riding, like what was that feeling the first time you got on there and they opened that chute up and you started riding? What was that feeling the best you can describe?
man, that was
Or something you can compare it to.
I don't think you can compare that to anything. That's the most the first time you get on one, you won't remember. The first 50 to 100 head you won't remember. Um, but even now, like the feeling, I've been retired for this last year, but the feeling of it is just it's incredible. I mean, you don't feel anything else like that. It's man, it just picture yourself in front of a crowd of, it could be from 100 people to 50 people to, you know, to a couple thousand people. And when you get on there and you're in the back of the chute and you're getting your animal ready and you're calming your horse down and you're calming your bull down or whatever you're gonna ride, and you're putting your saddle on, you're putting your bull rope on, all that goes away. The crowd, the the thoughts in your head, it all goes away, and you just go blank. And that's the way I've always been. I just go blank. I don't think about nothing. I think about my ride. You know, it's it's hard to describe, and you can talk to 100,000 guys that ride bulls or ride broncs, and they'll tell you the same thing. It's a hard thing to describe.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely, it is.
So what do you think in regards to like action sports and sports that are comparable to the danger of bull riding or bronc riding? Where do you think that industry sets in on the scale of danger? Do you think it's at the top? Do you think it's in the middle, at the bottom?
That's a little controversial. You got your motocross guys, and don't get me wrong, they were bad mamma jammas too. I know some people that ride motocross, and they're bad dudes. Uh, but I know a lot of people that most of my buddies they rodeo or they ride bulls or they ride bucking horses. And so it's all I can't really say. I can't really say one's worse than the other, one's more dangerous than the other. But if I had to say, I would absolutely say that rough stock's the most dangerous. Motorcycles. Them guys that race motorcycles, motocross, whatever, supercross, what have you. They have control of that bike the whole time.
Right.
They got the throttle, they got the brake, they can slow down, they can speed up whenever the heck they want. When we're on the back of a bull or we're on the back of a bucking horse, we don't have that capability. We can only match what that horse is giving us, and that's how we stay on is by matching that horse's energy. Basically, you go out there and you get, you get a horse that is going to go out there and just crack over its head. I mean, you got to be right. You got to be right there with them.
Right.
There's no saying, oh, whoa, 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 slow up a little bit. I'm getting far behind. There's none of that. You got to get there before you got to meet him.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people don't understand that. Say, oh, football or motocross is more dangerous and what have you. And don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely dangerous, and I think I give them hats off to them guys. But we don't have the we can't slow that animal down. That animal is an athlete, and he's going to go out there and perform to the best of his ability, just like the rest of us want to.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of people lack to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you do see a lot of people that are like immediately take to, oh, MMA is more dangerous or
Right.
this is more dangerous. But I mean, I guess if you really think about it, they all have their own aspects of danger.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
some, like you were saying, you're more able to control the outcome of the danger.
Absolutely.
In the sense with MMA, you can protect yourself, but if you're on a 2,000-pound bull and you get knocked off, I mean, there's no putting yourself in a really good position to take that on.
No, there's not. And a lot of guys will say, oh, the bull riders, they got they got the fucking bullfighters and the rodeo clowns and whatever, and and that's true. We do got the bull riders do got the bullfighters, and those are their heroes. I mean, they are there to protect them guys, and they do. But just like I said, earlier, you can't. There's no brakes on them animals. There's no saying, hey, you're bucking too hard. Slow down. I want to stop. And there was oh, what's his name, Cowboy Cerrone or whatever. He went on with Dale Brisby, and he's been riding bulls with him, and he's even said that it's a total different fight because it's the same thing. It's still a fight. It's a fight. It's a battle. It's a war, but it's totally different than. It's different, but it's the same. If that makes any sense. It's still a war. I mean, you're still fighting, you're still battling, but it's just totally different. Um, you know, like you said, I didn't even think about the MMA guys, UFC. Um, they take hits to the head, constant. But would you rather take a hit in the head from let's say Conor McGregor or Sugar Sean O'Malley, or would you rather take a hit in the head from some bull?
Right.
There's
Yeah.
there's a big difference in that, and I think that's what people lack to understand is you know what what them guys do in the ring is totally different from what them guys do in the arena.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. They're a completely different ball
Yeah,
game. And I mean myself from just being around the cattle industry, I mean I can see definitely how rodeo of any sense, whether people riding, bronc riding, whatever. I mean you're contending with something that's got a mind of its own.
that's
So
right.
and that's why I mean how do you mentally prepare to go into something like that?
You you just not you just don't you just do it. It's something that I grew up with a lot of people that um, they thought bull riding was cool. They thought bronc riding was cool, and uh, they wanted to do it for a little while. And I've watched some people go out there and they think that they can get on this horse or whatever. And I've watched, no offense to any team roper out there, but I've watched a team roper jump off his horse and come over and get in a chute and ride this guy's bucking horse out just because he was too scared to, because he did it because he wanted to be cool. Riding bucking horses or riding broncs isn't to be cool. I mean, it's not. Sure, it is cool. It's the coolest thing you can ever do in your life, but you gotta physically and mentally want it. And if you don't physically or mentally want it, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna get hurt every single time. It's something that's, I don't know. It's kind of, I'd say not bred into you, but
You got to want it.
yeah, exactly. You gotta want it. Like, you gotta physically want that and mentally want that. Otherwise, there's no point in you going out there. You're spending, you know, you know, upwards of 150, if not more, every time you go out and ride. And it's like, what's the point of going out there if you really don't want it? If you don't want it, if you don't want to try, like, why take all that money that you're going to spend doing that when you can spend it on something else? If you don't want this, just don't. I mean, there's a lot of people like in the ICA, what we call it is added money. Um, if you're going to go out there and just basically throw us money to get on a bull so you look cool in front of your girlfriend or whatever, that's fine. That's totally cool because you're giving us money. But um, it upsets me because it's like you're putting what they don't understand is like at any given time. I mean, something bad could happen, and that's what's scary about it. And that's what I've tried to drill into my kids. They're wanting to. My kids have. They've already been riding sheep and steers and whatnot, and that's what I'm trying to explain to them is bad things can happen. You guys gotta want this, and if you want it, you gotta prove it to me. And I think that's one thing they've done is prove to me that that's what they want. They want to ride. They want to do that, and I think that's really cool. My grandfather rode bulls, and he was pretty dang good at it, and I think that gives them more motivation than me riding bulls or me riding bucking horses. Is our grandfather did it, and that's what they want to live up to. That, I think.
Is bull riding or bronc riding something you want your kids to get into, or is that something you're kind of hesitant to allow them to get into?
Uh, man, shit, that's tough. Uh, it's definitely something. If they want to do it, I'd love them to do it. If they want to play soccer or tennis or baseball or football like that, I want them to do that. Um, it's definitely something I'll support them in. From the time my kids are little, that's what they wanted to do. Uh, they've only for only about the last maybe 3 years, they've actually got to watch me, compete in rodeo and ride bucking horses. And before that, once I found out that I was having kids, I took a break off just because I wanted to be, I wanted to be a present father and not be gone on the road all the time. And so I didn't rodeo for like the first, my oldest son's 7, so like the first maybe 3-4 years of his life. So I took some time off, and so they didn't get to see me at what I would call my prime, when I was, winning and winning money and stuff like that. But it's definitely something that, yeah, if they really want to do that, I'll support them. And I think that you know, um, they've both, they've rode sheep from the time they could walk. Uh, so it's yeah, I'll definitely support them. That's something they want to do. My oldest son wants to ride, bucking ponies this year. It's the first year he's able to do it. So yeah, I definitely something I'll support them in. It's definitely scary as a father. Now I understand why my dad was so hesitant and let me do it, but they love it and they're good at it, and they've already won money at 5 or they were 4 and 6 at the time. So yeah, I'll definitely support them in it. Absolutely.
So if you were to give um, a kid that wants to get into this industry a piece of advice, give them like a piece of advice, say, you would give to your kids for them, say, if they were going to get on a bull for their first time. What is just a solid piece of advice you'd give them?
Make sure that's something that you actually want. Uh, yeah, I can't stress that enough. Make sure it's something that you actually want to do. This isn't, you know, this isn't, don't take, you know, hope no one takes offense to this, but this isn't baseball. This isn't something that is just, oh, I'd like to do it because people think it's cool. It's not that. You do that and you're going to get it. You're going to end up getting hurt. I've said that before. Um, take classes. There's lots of schools. There's schools in Oregon, Washington, Wyoming, Idaho. There's schools all around that just take a school, go to a school, go to classes, and really learn the fundamentals of it first before you actually decide, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to spend my weekends and my weeks doing, traveling. Um, there's a lot more to riding rough stock or any rodeo event than just competing. There's travel expenses. There's um, vehicle expenses. You got to make sure that your vehicle is able to make it there. I've been on several times where we've taken cars that you know that are broke down on us, and trying to figure out how to get to the next rodeo. Just just being you got to be active in what you're doing, if that makes any sense. Um, just being a part of the rodeo community. I mean, you got to be. We're all there to help each other. Sure, we're competing against each other, but at the end of the day, we're a big family. I mean, just taking care of your equipment and taking care of the rough stock, and taking care of your animals, um, and I can't stress enough, take a class, go to a school, learn from the guys that really know what they're doing, and then think that, okay, maybe I can enter in a couple open events or whatever, and see how you like that, and then maybe get into the Western States or the ICA or what have you, but just make sure that rodeo is really what you want, because I've seen a lot of people that they get into rodeo and they think that's what they want, but it's not for them, and they ended up getting hurt, or just doing it just to you know get the googly eyes from the girls or their girlfriend or something, that's always drive me nuts. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know,
So you gotta want it for the right reasons.
oh, absolutely.
You can't come into it for any reason other than the thrill of the ride.
Yeah, no, you can't. No, I mean, sure, it's fun. Yeah, absolutely. I've known guys that have, I've been to I went to a rodeo in Wyoming one time, and these bicyclist guys, they stopped by, and we ended up getting these bicyclist guys on a couple of the bulls, and it was a lot of fun watching these guys ride bulls, and honestly, they were not bad.
Right,
It
yeah.
was cool though. Um, but there was a one time deal. They said they never wanted to do it again. It scared them to death. Um, but it's
I bet it gave them a whole new outlook
Oh
and a
yeah,
different respect
absolutely.
for you
And they
guys.
were, where do you tie the thing around the nuts? And it's like, we don't do that. I mean, imagine taking a rope and cinch around your testicles. Are you gonna want to buck or move? I guarantee you're
Right.
not.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to stand there until someone takes it off.
Right.
I mean, it's just like taking a belt and tightening it too hard, and all it does is give something to kick against. It gives them something to kick, to get that thing off of them, and that's what we do. We do, bucking dummies and stuff on the colts and on the yearling bulls and stuff, and we give them something to buck against, and we won't even do the full 8 seconds. We'll do a couple seconds, and as soon as they kick or they do a move that we really like, boom, we'll kick it off them all by remote control, and it knocks the dummy off. But I think that's like that's just something that a lot of people think is that we tie ropes around.
Well, and see, I kind of want to delve in on this a little bit because as a photographer, as something else that I do, I've gone and shot at rodeos.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that in the industry, and for good reason, there's a lot of hesitation just to let any person off the street come in and film or take video or take pictures.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, understand why. And I looked at some photos on Instagram that people had posted of, bull riding, bronc riding, whatever it may be. And a lot of people posted on there, well, how could you do this beautiful animal and you're hurting it? And from my perspective and being around the industry and, being grown up around you,
right,
and seeing you ride and everything, the thing that I've seen, and I think you could kind of expand on this a little bit, is these people don't understand how good a life these bulls,
Absolutely.
these broncs have. I mean,
Absolutely.
I know there are guys that give their bulls the best treatment. I mean, they have people that come out and massage them.
Yep.
They come out and do treatment on their hide. They do everything. I mean, they bathe them like they're a baby. Some of them. I mean, they spend millions of dollars on a top ranking bull, and people think that they just go back to some dirty, nasty round pen that's got no shade, but that's simply not the truth. And you personally can probably expand on how well these animals are treated.
Yeah, you think that it's like these MLB players, NFL players. Do you think those guys are going back and living in shit? I mean, pardon my French, but you think they're just going back and living in just some barn and expect to play well? That's just not the case. And most of these animals, in fact, every animal that I've ever met, since I've been around, rodeoing or any sort of livestock, is the animals get treated first, they get fed first, and they get the best of the best. I mean, that we don't. There's lots of rules. What a lot of people don't understand is that there's lots of rules and regulations within rodeoing and within riding bulls, riding bucking horses. There's lots of rules and regulations. What people don't understand, our spurs can't be, they can't be sharp. They can't be. Even with ranch bronc riding nowadays, and almost every road I've ever been in, you can't have rowels that are more than 5 points. And they can't be sharp, at all. They have to be all round shanked. So it's like when I get these people that tell me that, oh well, you guys mistreat animals and blah blah blah. It's like, show me one time that we mistreated an animal. I mean, please show me one time, because we take these animals, they come from the nice, most of the time, the nicest pastures. I mean, they got the best feed in the world, and they get to ride on basically a big school bus. That's what we call them, is a school bus. I mean, they get the best lifestyle. I mean, when they're in their pens, they got fresh feed, they got water all the time, and like you said, a lot of times, there's once you get into the big associations with the big, you know, NFR kind of status, yeah, there's lots of people that come massage those horses, and and we take care of them. I don't understand where these people come from saying that we mistreat animals, because um, if we did, we wouldn't, our horses wouldn't buck. You know what I mean? If we mistreated our animals, they wouldn't buck. What people don't understand is that our animals nowadays are bred to buck. That's what they want to do. They want to buck. They want. That's what they let. They're athletes just like we are. And that's
And
what I
that's
go
their
back.
sport.
Yeah, and that's what I go back to about MLB players and NFL players. We take care of them, right? So we take care of our livestock same way that we take care of people. I mean, they're athletes, and it's always blown my mind to hear people talk like that, because it's like, you know, they get this thing in their head, I think, and and without having a clue about it. But then they want to go and they want to broadcast it all over Facebook or Instagram or whatever fucking social media deal that they have, and say and just try to put us down in the dirt, when really we take better care of our livestock than we do our riders. I mean, we really do, and we take good care of our riders, and our rough stock riders. I mean, we the fucking the rough stock comes first. I mean, we feed them first, we water them first. I mean, we do everything for them first. There's, like I said, there's lots of regulations on different things. Like I said, the rowels, the reins, I mean, everything. It's not just going out there and this horse is just trying to get away from you and buck. It's that horse wants to buck. And once you pull the flank strap, you're watching a lot of these. Anyone can go out there and watch any video of any bull, any bucking horse. That flank strap gets pulled, that thing starts bucking. I mean, I've had buddies that go out there and they pull their own flank straps while they're riding. That horse stops bucking and gives the pickup man an easier time to get them off. I mean, it's always blown my mind.
Right, yeah. So, what would you say to people to give them, what is something people could do that would give them a better opportunity to kind of see things on the other end and get a better idea and understand how you're trying to describe, how well these animals are taken care of? What are some things people can do other than, attending just your average rodeo? Or
there's any ranch out there, or any there's lots of places you can go. I mean, you said, other than the rodeos, but the rodeos are where you want to go. Go to a rodeo. Go behind the chutes. Sure, it's not always easy to get behind the chutes, but you tell them why you're there and whatever, they're going to let you behind the chutes, because they want to prove to you, they want to show you what we're all about. We're not doing this against the animals, Will, I promise you. I mean, them horses want a buck. Them bulls want a buck. There's no, we don't abuse them. We don't hot shot them. We don't, there's just so many controversial things that people say that we do, and it's just not true, and it drives me just absolutely insane. I mean, the rope around the nut. I mean, I'll go back to that. The rope around the nuts. People say we tie a rope around the bull's nuts. That ain't gonna happen. The bull ain't gonna want to buck if something's tied around his nuts.
right.
I mean, any stock contractor that you talk to, go talk to them. Go ask them to come back and see that what we do. Go talk to them. The stock contractors, local ranchers, veterinarians. I mean, there's so many people that you can talk to that will testify and say, hey, this is how they do it. This is what and they'll teach you and they'll show you. I mean, you can come down and come down and talk to me. I'll show you how we do stuff. I mean, there's so many ways to there's just so many ways to go about it other than just posting on Facebook and or Instagram or TikTok or what have you about how we treat these animals, and it's just like, well, come learn the facts before you actually go
Right.
out there and
Make
you know
assumptions and
yeah, make assumptions. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. So I from I'll kind of go back to the fact that I've taken pictures and videos of rodeos and other events with the livestock, and I've even me and you have talked about this personally before in the past, and it's becoming very apparent that the livestock industry in its entirety is sadly and it's putting our lifestyle here in the United States in a lot of danger. But the fact that that industry is going away and not a lot of people are doing much to protect it. I mean, the people that are in the industry are doing what they can, but do you think with how in society that rodeo and the livestock industry is doomed, or do you think there's hope
No,
for the
absolutely not.
industry to stay?
No, there is no, absolutely not. We are not going anywhere, and I can almost guarantee you that for a fact. I know, and I could be wrong, but what I've heard from other people. California, they don't want that there, but I don't think anywhere else is going to stop it. We've been doing, bronc riding's been around for a long, long, long time. I mean, it started out before it was a rodeo, was riding broncs, riding colts. So how can someone sit there and say that? Um, you can't sit there and say that. Oh, it's going to go out. I mean, it's just not going to happen. We got too many people invested in it. We got too many people that love watching it. It just won't go anywhere. And I'll put $1,000,000 on that I don't have. I mean, it just won't go anywhere. It'll be here forever. I mean, I know that people have tried, but you know, it just not going nowhere.
So regardless of like say outside forces that think that the industry is negative, do you think things such as the impact of wolves, do you think that is something that, if not managed properly, could potentially really impact the livestock industry?
Livestock, yes. The cattle ranchers, the guys that raise sheep, and yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's yeah. That falls apart from
The rodeo
the
side,
rodeo
yeah.
stuff. But
But I
yeah,
mean, you have to think
no,
it's all
no,
one
it's all
industry.
intertwined. No, you're
Yeah.
right. Um, yeah, absolutely. No, the wolves are devastating. Are what we've tried to build. Absolutely. Um, there's a lot of people say, "Oh, the wolves are here. The wolves are here." No, no bullshit. The wolves are not here. The wolves that we had here were in Eastern Oregon were prairie wolves, and they were the size of coyotes, and they were extinct back in. No, I don't. Someone on here will probably tell me 1930s or something like that. I mean, early in the 1900s. We have not had wolves in here for, I mean, over 100 years. So the wolves that we have here now came from Canada, and they've been introducing them here, which I don't know why, because it's done nothing but cause problems here. And I've been, I mean, I've been there and I've watched the problems cause. Um, I won't get too much into that, but the wolves are no, the wolves are not. They're not welcome here, and I wish that the wolves could listen to this and say, "Hey, you're not welcome here," and get back. You know, um, that is,
I mean, maybe you should delve into, the sheer terror that livestock experiences when, a pack of wolves or even a single wolf comes into a ranch or, a round pen or
yeah.
wherever they're being held. I mean, you've seen firsthand
Oh, I have
what it can do.
absolutely, and it's disgusting. It's it makes a guy. I'm not a cattle. I don't own cattle anymore. I work for guys who own cattle, but those cattle are my paycheck, and they're what feed my children. And so when I hear about all these people saying, "Oh, the wolves this and the wolves that," and they're supposed to be here, it frankly pisses me off because you're stealing food out of my children's mouth. Because every time a calf gets killed, that comes from my not directly from my paycheck per se, but that comes out of my that does because that's what I'm here for is to protect my cattle and protect everything else. And you're gonna and these wolves are coming and stealing cattle that comes from my paycheck and that feeds my children. And the, I mean, I've watched. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. I mean, wolves will just come in and just decimate. I mean, they're just and they kill for fun. Is what's funny is that it's not funny, but it's they'll come in and they'll kill a calf and they'll eat his hindquarters out while the calf is still alive, and then just leave it, just to die. I mean, that's money down the drain, um, and that's sickening. That people just think that's okay. How would they like if I came to their house and I took every food item from their pantry and I said your kids aren't allowed to eat? That's the way that I feel about it.
Well, and people don't get a true perspective on how it really, is until, say, they've got a small dog and they let it out for the night and a
Exactly.
wolf comes by and snatches it up.
Exactly.
Then they want, the tides turn, and those same people saying that they need to be protected are the same ones saying that they need to be hunted down and eradicated.
Exactly. So where does your little dog fall into that? Why does your little dog have more say than what feeds my children?
Well, not only does it feed your children, but it feeds our country.
Exactly.
I mean, it's bigger than even just putting food on the local tables or the owner of the ranch's table or any of that. I mean,
Exactly.
you're the industry you're in. You guys are one of the backbones and the pillars of our country. I mean, if it weren't for you guys, a lot of people in this country would go hungry.
No, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
we feed other countries even. I mean, and let alone all the cattle, industry. There's all these farmers that are getting attacked, and I'm sure you see it. You work around, local farmers, and they're getting attacked for the stuff they do. And I mean, they're harvesting our country's food. I mean, how are you going to attack the person that puts the food on your table every day?
Well, them people they don't understand. They've never been around it, which I can't. I wish they would. I wish they could. And I wish maybe if people understand what we go through even in a day is I'm not gonna say worse than what they go through in a day because I don't know what they go through. But it's hard, man. I mean, it's hard to think about, And like I said, I'm not even, I don't own cattle. I work for people who own cattle. That's what I do. But just to think about my cows every day and what they need for feed and for nutrition and for everything, just their well being, it takes a lot out of a guy just to think about that for a day. And I wish that other people could see, like, that's what we deal with. Maybe if they seen what we deal with and how we feel every single day. I mean, even at nighttime. At nighttime, I think about cattle. I mean, all day long. What we got to do next? What we got to do next? What fence we got to fix? How's our nutrition going? I mean, it's a constant. I mean, it's a constant thing. I mean, I can't even think about what my bosses go through. Like, the cow boss. I mean, I can't imagine what he thinks in a day, because I'm constantly trying to think for him, but he's thinking for everybody. I mean, and we got. Now, I'm not going to say how many cattle we got, but we got quite a bit of cows. I mean, and people don't understand what we go through in a day just to feed people. And it just blows my mind every day that, people think that these wolves can just come in and they're just welcome. They're not welcome here. No, they're not. Absolutely not. They're not. They're just not welcome.
So I know that there's another challenge that the livestock industry is facing. One specifically, the area that we both reside in, and that is wildfires. How has that impacted you specifically, or say the ranchers you've worked for? Um, has it affected you in any way specifically, and like how did you have to respond to that?
Yeah, wildfires absolutely play a big part um, in. So like, okay, so like last year we had probably our worst, and since I've been in, working in the cattle industry since I've been an adult, it was a big, it was a scary thing last year. Durkee got, one of the worst fire. I mean, it's the worst fire in the United States there for a while. Um, and it was scary, man, because a lot of them guys, I mean, they lost cattle. They lost grazing grounds for the next couple years, and it was just it was scary. My father was he lost a bunch of his place up there. Luckily, we I had a good crew with me, and we ended up getting, he didn't burn down any of his property, but he lost his pasture. So I've had his horses for the last over a year now. Um, the wildfires are definitely, they play a big part in both sides. Honestly, the wildfires can, they make a lot of grazing ground. I mean, they do. Give it a couple years, the grass is going to grow back. And it's going to be great. Um, but like I said, a lot of people lost cows, and they lost cows and grazing land, and it was detrimental to them. I mean, we've had to, we've all as a community had to band together, put the fire out, and we eventually did. But we've also had to band together and and focus on their livestock to keep their livestock fed. And I think that was the hardest part about this last summer um, was the fires. It was just it was scary for a lot of us folks, and a lot of the guys that don't understand, they don't have cows, maybe they don't understand. um, those cows come before even, sometimes it's sad to say, but sometimes even before our own families. um, I remember, shoot, I was out there till, I mean, several days at a time, without seeing my family, and that was hard. But you got to do what you got to do. I mean, if it's not just for yourself, it's for your community, your neighbors, because your neighbors are at the end of the day, in the cattle industry, are your best friends. They're either going to be your best friends or your worst enemies, and I think anyone that listens to this is going to agree with that. Um, and it was really cool to see our community kind of band together and get that fire put out, and then also, you know, help provide for those guys that who lost so much. I think it was really cool to see, um, just humanity. I mean, that was probably the coolest thing about last year was, um, the fires were terrible, but just to see us all band together and just come together as one and to help each other out. I think that um that was cool, man. I really thought that was awesome.
Do you think the state provided enough assistance in
I,
regard to helping these cattle ranchers, offset the losses?
I think they did. I think they did the best they could. Absolutely. Um, the firefighters. I mean, they did an amazing job. They're out there risking their lives and they're away from their family. But we all you have insurance on cattle, but you don't have insurance on land. I mean, you can, but it doesn't work the same. Your land gets burnt up. They're not going to give you more. They're not going to give you another piece of land with grass. And I think that was the toughest thing. But we all came together. We got hay for the people that lost, um, and so I think we did. I think we fared out pretty good.
So I was meaning more in the sense of like the state government, like our governor, and how do you think they handled it? Because I mean our local government, local community, I personally think did a fantastic job in helping support everyone who was dealing with that disaster. Um, but there's a lot of differing opinions when it comes to how the state
Right.
handled the situation. How do you think the state did? Do you think the state was there enough? Do you think they, allocated money to the right places, or do you think it was just a total and utter failure?
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, I think it's kind of all who you talk to, really. I think they did okay. I think they did, like I said, the best they could. Um, I Yeah, I think they did the best they could. I think they could have, provided money where it was needed more. But unfortunately, in rural Eastern Oregon, we're not going to get as much as the. I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but the guys getting food stamps and stuff like that. I don't think we're gonna. I don't think the cattle industry will ever get as much money as them guys do. Um, but I think our biggest deal was our community. I mean, our community, that's what we got in Eastern Oregon is our own community. And I think that a lot of people agree with me on that is that our community, when needed, we come together. And I think, we all fight with each other. Um, and that's what saved a lot of stuff was, I mean, there was a lot of wildland firefighters out there, I mean, they were just awesome. But to see the amount of ranchers that were there, I mean, and not even just from that county, there was lots of ranchers from other counties and other areas that came over to help us. That was, that was huge. I mean, that's what saved us was them. It wasn't. Um, sure, our government did. I mean, some. I'm not gonna say they didn't, but our ranchers did a lot. I mean, that was our community, and I think that's where a lot of people lack to realize is that how, when it comes to ranchers and farmers and what have you, we come together as a community when times needed. And I think a lot of people lack to realize how big we really are. We may seem small to some people, but we come together when it's needed, and I think that's the biggest thing.
So you guys are a real legit community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. I mean, we have our flaws and our setbacks, and sure, we argue with our neighbors sometimes. But when time's needed, we definitely come together. I mean, there's no and ifs or buts about it. We're there for one another because we're all in the same boat together. We're just trying to feed our families.
When you guys are in a very a very ridiculed industry. So I mean, you guys almost in a sense have no choice other than to really have each
Oh,
other's
absolutely,
backs and
absolutely.
treat your fellow, whether it be farmer, rancher, anybody that deals with helping feed our country. I mean, you guys all got to really just stay together and have each
Oh,
other's back,
absolutely.
or
Yeah.
you guys could just definitely get overrun.
No, absolutely, and that's what everyone. There's lots of people that try to kill the ranching industry, but we all, at the end of the day, we're all just family. We stick together. We just we want what's best for each other and what's best for our community as a whole. And I'm talking the United States and what have you. I mean, we're there to for our people.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what people lack to realize is that we're there for everyone else. We're not there just to, this isn't. I mean, I wish I could talk money on how much we spend on cattle and how much we spend on our potatoes and everything else a year. It's a lot of money, and people don't understand that. But we don't do that just for us. We do that
Right.
for our community as a whole, and that's everybody. Whether you own cows or land or an apartment or whatever. Live in a van. We don't care. We're there to feed you guys, and you know you guys are our family, basically. That's the way we all like to see it.
Right. So do you think now in like the day and age that we're in, where we have TV shows and movies about the cattle industry and the livestock industry in general, do you think shows like Yellowstone, for example, do you think Yellowstone is a very accurate or a very good representative of your industry? I know there's a lot of contention when it comes to that show. I mean, some people say that it is accurate in some stances, other people say it's a load of crap.
There's there's a lot in Yellowstone that they don't show that we have to deal with. The 12, 13, 14-hour days sometimes we have to deal with. Cattle dying. I mean, I know you got to see that in Yellowstone. There is a lot in Yellowstone that they don't show. And I think that there was a reason why they don't show that. But there's a lot in there, and yeah, I'll say there's a lot. There's some in Yellowstone that is true. But Yellowstone was to draw attention. There's no. I don't know of any place that has a train station.
Right, yeah.
There's, some of the horses that they had in there, and some of even a lot of the cowboys they had in there were real working cowboys. I mean, they knew what they were doing. So Yellowstone is kind of a
glamorized.
And who you talk to. I mean, there's gonna be some guys on here. They're gonna say, "Oh, that guy, he likes Yellowstone. He ain't a real cowboy." And there's that's hard to say, man.
Right. Yeah.
That's hard to say. There's a lot in Yellowstone that when I watched, I was like, man, it's nothing like what you actually see out there. I mean, those guys are out there and they first loop catch something. I mean, I don't care who you are. There's not every day you go out there and catch first loop. I mean, not every time.
Right.
And I've watched some of the best ropers out there, some of the best cowboys out there, and they don't catch every time.
So sure. I guess what you're trying to say is they made it a little too picture perfect.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But they did that for a reason, to draw attention.
Right.
And I think they did a very good job at that. But yeah, no. I
Do you think like the drama is? I mean, some of the drama is very extreme in Yellowstone, but like some of the more minor drama, do you think they got correct? I mean, there's obviously stuff like where they took the bull down to the bar after some of the guys got beat up. Yeah.
I've seen shit like that. I've been to rodeos where guys will ride their horses in there and stuff like that. But there's, I don't know, it's all the ranch you work for, man. There's, I've been to some ranches that are pretty wild. That'll do some Yellowstone shit, but not quite like what they put on TV. You know what I mean?
Right, no train stations.
No, we don't do no train stations or nothing like that. But
do you think the show's done a good job at like sparking people's interest and maybe drawing people to having more interest?
Sparked a little too much interest.
Yeah,
in my opinion. There's a lot of guys out there that just they think they're Rip Wheeler now, and I think it's adorable.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, all right, that's fine, but just when someone who actually is in the cattle industry and they call you out on something, like, make sure you know your facts. I mean, make sure that there's, man, I don't know how many rodeos I've been to, and there's guys that just they're there just because of Yellowstone, I think. I mean, and I don't mean to dog on them. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I think being a cowboy is cool. It is. But I think there's a lot of people out there for the wrong reason trying to be a cowboy. And I wouldn't even consider myself a cowboy. I mean, I'm around cattle every day, but I wouldn't consider myself by any means a cowboy. There's so many people out there that that know a heck of a lot more than I do, and even I've met kids younger than me that I'm like, man, I want to be like them when I grow up.
Right, yeah.
There's it's but there's always room for more, and that's what I've always told people who are down on these guys that are, wanting to come in and be cowboys or ranch hands or what have you, and it's a lot of these guys will come down on them and like, oh, what? They got a Jason Aldean hat and blah blah blah. It's like, to me, I don't care what you wear. You out there, you're gonna try. You want to do what we do, and you want to learn. Like that's, I think that's cooler than anything. I mean, it's been talked about for a long time. We are a dying breed, and we are. If we get more people out there interested in what we do and understand what we do and what we're trying to do for our community as a whole, I think we'd be a lot better. There's a lot of people that are down on us and down on the, some of these guys are just like, oh, well, he's, you know, he's wearing a Jason Aldean hat and he doesn't have the right boots or he doesn't have the right spurs or he mounts his horse wrong or he saddles his horse wrong and blah, blah, blah. I think that's just BS in my opinion. If you're doing your job and you're wanting to go out there and learn, what's the problem with that?
Right, everybody's got to start somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't by any means grow up on a ranch. I mean, sure, we had cattle, we had, goats and sheep and horses, and, we trained our own horses, but I wouldn't consider myself ever, to be a cowboy. I mean, you got to step in some pretty big shoes to be a cowboy. Sure, I've roped my fair share of fucking Mavericks and rope. I've roped lots of. You've seen me rope, and but I wouldn't consider myself a cowboy by any means. I love doing what I do, but there's a lot of people that are a lot better than me than what I am.
So, what do you think the milestone is that you have to reach to be a true cowboy?
Man, that's hard to say. That comes in. Man, a lot of people tell you different, and that's, I don't know. A lot of people think that cowboy just someone that sits on a horse all day, but there's a lot more to cowboying than sitting on a horse. There's always fence building and mineral to put out and fence to fix and stuff. And I think that I don't know. Maybe I'm just humble, but I will never consider myself a cowboy. I'm cattle rancher. I do all sorts of stuff. I don't know to say that you're a cowboy, that's hard. A cowboy was a guy that tends cows. That's what he did. That was his job, was to tend cows. So I don't know, man. That's a hard question to answer, and I'm sure lots of people in the comments will tell us what a real cowboy is. But
so it almost sounds like to me, you just have to be. You have to really master multiple facets of more than multiple, dozens of different facets of the industry.
absolutely.
You can't just be, really good at roping or, really good at riding your horse. Or...
No, you could be the best roper out there and not know nothing about cowboying. I mean, you got to know the husbandry of everything. You got to be able to read a calf and read a cow and know when one's sick and, to be able to see a pink eye from a mile away. And, there's so much stuff that goes into it that people just don't understand, and it's hard to explain. I'm sure a lot of people can explain a lot better than I can, but I don't know. I will always consider, I always call my kids. My kids are cowboys. They cowboy from their bones. But I would never consider myself a cowboy by any means.
So I'm sure in part of earning your stripes and being a real cowboy, it probably takes, spilling some blood in a sense. I'm sure there's some injuries or some broken bones and stuff that comes with earning that title of a true cowboy. I guess, so to speak, on your journey to being the cowboy that you would be proud of or want to be. Have you sustained any injuries or anything that has put you in the hospital? Or
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not very not like what some people have been through, but like, I know when I first, well, I guess the last bull I ever rode, I was 14, 15, maybe 16 years old. I cracked two vertebrae in my back, and that was the end of that for me. But then last year, um, I was riding one of our ranch's colts, and um, it went south. Let's just say that, and I ended up breaking three ribs and getting a pneumothorax, and pneumothorax is basically a hole in your lung. So I was my cab boss took me down from it was just up here in Sumter. Uh, Took me down to Baker, and then from Baker they life flighted me to Boise, and I was in the trauma center for about a week. Well, give or take a week. Um, and I think that was about the biggest injuries I've ever had. Other than that, it's been, you know.
so what happened? What caused you to sustain that injury?
Oh, then I was just riding a green colt that of the ranches, and uh, he had we went through a kind of a thicket of brush, and he's haven't been around that very often. So I mean, it wasn't his fault. It just a stick poked him or something happened, and he freaked out, and I wasn't cowboy enough to stay on, and ended up hit my side of my left side on a stump about 12 inches around, and ended up breaking three ribs and puncturing a lung. Luckily, we were pretty close to the road, so it was only about an hour or so drive down. Um, but that was a pretty big. I guess that was the biggest wreck I really ever had. Um, Broken bones wise, I mean, like I said, I cracked my vertebrae in my back, but I was young enough at that time um, that I healed up from that. I mean, just lickety split. But this last one, it took me several months to be able to get up out of bed or even to do anything. Luckily, my girlfriend, when she was there for me the whole time and bathed me basically and got me into bed and changed my clothes and um, it sounds pretty pathetic, but when you have three broke ribs and a punctured lung, it's pretty hard to do just about anything. And I got sick a week after that, so I was sick with I was sneezing and coughing, and that didn't help anything whatsoever. But um, I think that was about the worst injury I've ever had. Other than that, just been small stuff, torn rotator cuff, uh, a couple stitches here and there, maybe. I mean, nothing too incredible.
But I mean, there's definitely been guys in the livestock industry who've lost their lives
Oh yeah,
to injuries sustained during the job, right?
absolutely. Yeah, no, there's been lots, and like everyone knows about Lane Frost. I mean, the way he lost his life, and that was pretty. That was pretty bummer deal. But there's been lots of people that have lost their lives in the arena, and I don't think we give them enough praise. I guess not just for them being gone, not for them being gone, just for the fact that they went out there and they were doing something that they loved. I think that's incredible. And there's been lots of guys that have been, they got injured and that was their last injury they could sustain. JB Mooney this last year, he wasn't able to. He broke his neck in Idaho, and that was his last. He couldn't do it anymore. I know. I mean, I'm sure that hurt him. Just had a buddy of mine break his leg about a week ago or so, and that's put an end to his season. And he was sitting pretty good, and he was riding good, and I know that's rough, especially when. Luckily myself, I haven't ever been. I've always had another job. I've always ranched or cowboy for somebody, so I've always had another job other than riding bucking horses. But for a lot of these guys, that's what they do for a living. I mean, they don't do nothing else but ride bucking horses, and that's how they make their living is paycheck to paycheck. riding bucking horses or bulls or what have you. And so when you get an injury in this sport, it can be detrimental to just to everything. And it's it's kind of scary in a way because you don't get health insurance. Most places, ICA, Western States Ranch Rodeo, you don't get that kind of luxury.
So, do you think that the earnings that most riders get if they're successful outweigh the potential costs of, say, medical bills?
If you're successful, absolutely. But if you're successful, absolutely. There's a lot of us guys that, I wouldn't consider us successful. We ride on the weekends or we ride during the week or we make maybe a couple thousand here and there, but that's not enough to sort of to support a family or anything like that. Um, that's kind of a gray area, if you will.
So you almost in a sense have to be your year-round full-time job,
Absolutely.
Being a writer,
Yep.
to make it something you can sustain
Oh,
your
absolutely.
lifestyle on.
Yeah, no, you're an athlete. You gotta be, tip top shape. Eat good, work out. That's your job basically is to do that. And um, I've never been to that level. I've just rodeoed on the weekends or what have you. So I've never been to that level. So I can't really answer that for sure. But I know a lot of guys, a lot of my buddies are at that level, and that's all they do is they work out, they eat good, they go to rodeo. They got their campers on the back of their pickups or they're flying or what have you, and that's just what they do. I've never been to that level, and frankly, I'm kind of glad I haven't been.
Right, I'm sure when things get to that serious of a level, there's a lot more things that you're not allowed to do, a lot more
Oh yeah,
restrictions, a lot more hoops to jump through.
yeah.
Um, do you see yourself continuing to ride, or do you think this last season's your last?
No, this last season was my last. I hung up my saddle this last season, and it's currently sitting in my house right now, and it'll never be brought out again. I don't think.
You don't think the temptation will get to you?
It gets to me all the time. It's just I took several years off, and it just and that was before I had kids, and so I was able to put out my full potential to that and just dedicate myself to that. And now that I have kids, my dedication is to my children and for their well being. And I don't think that I don't have time between my job and my children. I don't have the time to be dedicated to being in the arena every day. I would sure love to be. I'm only 28 years old. I'd love to be out there every day with a lot of my buddies. They still they ride, and I'd love to be, but my dedication is just not to that anymore. My dedication is to my children and for their well being and to get them started in what I started in. And I think that's what it's just gonna be. I'll just ride along with them basically.
So do you think there's potential to, say that if the money was good enough for a certain event this summer and, you had the time to do it, do you think you'd go and participate in an event?
There's lots of times, yeah, that when the money's good enough, it gives anybody temptation. Um, the problem is that like I said, I've taken so many years off, and I haven't been dedicated to bronc riding anymore. That there's a lot of these younger guys that are coming up that are just, you know, pardon my French, but they're badasses. They're kicking butt.
On their game?
Oh yeah, they're just killing it, and I don't think that with the dedication I've given to the sport in the last several years, I can't compete with them anymore. And there's guys older than me. There's Sabian and Fernando and uh, you know Tegan, and there's lots of guys that are just they're just killing at it right now. I don't have the. Sure, I can get on and ride with the best of them every once in a while, but they're dedicated to the sport, if you will, and they're out there to win every single weekend. And I'm just I kind of not gave up on the idea. I did hang up my saddle, and I will, maybe 4th of July here in Haines, Oregon, or Father's Day rodeo in Whitebird. I might go get on one or two, but I think for the most part, I definitely I'm done. Yeah.
Do you think maybe like the potential for future injuries and the fact that that could impact your ability to provide for your children is also something that's kind of hanging you up, or?
It has been, yeah, absolutely. It's something that I think any guy out there that has children and still, yeah, whether you're riding rough stock or, even steer wrestling or even roping. There's always the potential to get injured. But um, I think the fact it was just I just don't have, like I said before, I just don't have the time for it. I don't have the
Yeah.
time to put my 100% in it, and so if you don't have the time to put 100% in it, why are you doing it? It's just basically what I've come down to.
Right, and like you said earlier, with how serious this sport is, if you're not 100% in, on your game and in it and want it, then it's potential for you to get hurt or
Oh,
just
absolutely,
be
yeah.
completely unsuccessful.
No, absolutely, yeah. No, I think last year I think I maybe rode three out of the 7 rodeos I went to, and that's bucked off 4. That's over, $800. That's just an entry fees. So and that doesn't consider your food and your travel time and your time away from, your actual job and just travel expenses. It adds up a lot. So with my kids growing up in it now and they wanting to do it, I figured, man, I'd much rather support them and what they do than go out and get bucked off in a weekend. I'd rather see them succeed and work on their progress and get them where they want to be. And if this is something they want to do, then I'll full heartedly, I'll they got my 100% support. Like I said earlier, they can do tennis, they can do soccer. I don't care as long as it's something that they want to do and they're going to stick to, they'll stick to it because there's no quitting in the middle. There's no, if you start something, you're going to finish it. And that's kind of the way that I kind of did, I guess. I think I started something and I finished it, and I think I did okay doing, finishing it. I realized that, hey, I got young kids at home. I got, my life's totally different than what it used to be when I was just, younger and, able to run wild and rodeo whenever the heck I wanted to. It's just totally different for me now, and I think that uh, my children deserve that same thing, just to be able to rodeo and to get to experience that, because really the rodeo community is the best community you can ever have. I got some of the best friends I've ever made has been in the community of rodeo. We're just one big family, and that's what they're learning too, and I think that's really important.